Every team, every topic, everywhere. This is Believe.
The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling, and college basketball is ready to go as well. BetOnline remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, and NHL are all in full swing, and BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and remember to use your promo code BELIEVE, B-L-E-A-V, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
This is Sean Clark, head football coach of App State Mountaineers, and you're listening to the Fun Belt Podcast.
If you didn't know before, now you know why they call this the Fun Belt.
I'm very excited about the Sun Belt.
You know, while other conferences have been breaking up, our conference has become stronger.
The state of Sun Belt football is the strongest in our history.
I saw Fun Belt Conference, and I'm like, I don't know what this is. I got to join the show. It sounds a lot of fun.
Fun Belt Podcast, part of the Believe Network, coming in with everything James Madison apparently on the Believe Network. I mean, we have Shane Mettlen from the Daily News Record, Heisman Trophy voter, All-American extraordinaire. He's just oozing with purple and gold right now, Jeremy. I don't know what to do. Jeremy Harper of HowlRaiser.com. I'm, of course, Dusty Thibodeaux of Warhawk Reports. It was all JMU all the time this past weekend. Jeremy, please tell us your thoughts on JMU.
Oh, absolutely. We should change this podcast to the Duke Belt Podcast. All things, all Dukes, right? Because the Dukes are polled in the AP Top 25 for football, polled for the AP Top 25 in basketball. They're in the national NCAA soccer tournament. I don't know. And College Game Day is coming, Dusty, for the game versus Appalachian State. What's happening here, Dusty? You and I, our teams have told in the Sun Belt for decades.
I'm just disappointed. I mean, Shane calls Corso and gets him to come to his house.
Oh, wow.
Yet he won't come on the show.
Corso won't come on the show?
Shane, explain yourself. Why is Corso not coming on the show?
I don't know. I have not spoken to them yet. I think we're going to get to talk to all those guys on Friday. So I'll report back on why, if any of them want to come do Fun Belt Podcast. I'll see what we can do about that.
Let me ask you this, Shane. So it's game day. They come to Harrisonburg, Pennsylvania. Yeah. Harrisonburg.
Yes, it's capital of Pennsylvania, Harrisonburg.
Yeah. Anyway, who is the guest picker, the celebrity picker that comes out?
They have not announced that yet.
Oh.
But they did announce the Jonas Brothers are coming.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. Now, who would it be, though, Shane? Who would
I don't know.
Yeah.
There are some possibilities. I mean, you could go with a former football player, maybe like a Charles Haley.
Yeah.
Somebody like that.
Okay.
Or you could go maybe out of that realm. There's not a ton of huge celebrities. There's Jim Acosta from CNN. He's one of the more prominent JMU grads.
Okay, Jim Acosta. Sure.
I heard somebody toss out the possibility of Odyssey Alexander, who was like the star of the softball run a couple of years ago, was all over ESPN for a couple of weeks then. Maybe bring her out, show a few highlights and do that. I don't know. I don't know if they're anticipating getting somebody big. That's why they haven't announced it yet. I don't know. I feel like you could always go given the basketball team cracking the top 25, you could always just pull Mark Byington over there as a safe choice. So I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully here in the next day or two, we'll know and have something to talk about.
Yeah. Now we've had this discussion with Arkansas State fans. Who would be that celebrity person from Arkansas State? And you know what? We've got the voice of Squidward from SpongeBob.
Oh, that's cool.
He's in Arkansas.
He can come out and come out in costume and
Yeah. We also have Melissa McBride. She's like some sort of country star. She's out there now. I don't particularly listen to a lot of her country. She has a great song about taking off your bra, and that's about it. But who Thibs from ULM? Who would be the celebrity guest speaker?
I think you got several choices.
Okay.
You have the legendary Tim Brando.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Tim McGraw.
Wow. Tim McGraw.
You have me, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the obvious choice.
Stan Humphries, Super Bowl champion.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Joe Profit, former NFL first overall draft pick.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
Aren't there some like reality stars or something?
Only one of them actually went to school there at ULM.
Yeah.
Only Willie. The rest are Tech or Harding grads.
Oh.
Okay. One I do wonder about for this week. I don't know if they're famous enough. Do you guys know Old Crow Medicine Show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I attended one of their concerts. Yeah.
They're like their original lineup were like mostly from Harrisonburg, and then they went to Boone and got discovered.
Oh,
so I feel like that would be like a pretty good one for this game.
That would be a good one.
Maybe we'll see. I don't know. I wondered if they're like well known enough, but
didn't they do a version of Wagon Wheel that was?
They
really
did. They wrote Wagon Wheel. And then,
okay.
And then Darius Rucker
just
had a bigger hit with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them in Nashville. Yeah, I did. I wasn't familiar with them, but I am now.
Yeah.
So also, included with the game day. That's great. Big win over. We talked about JMU's big win over Michigan State. They beat Kent State in overtime, but that was part of the MAC challenge. And the MAC challenge, we didn't do so bad, Thibs. The girls, what was it, 9-3?
9-3.
Did some good jobs. I know Arkansas State came in there with a win to start it off. And then for the men, what was it? What was the final tally, Thibs?
5-7.
Okay, 5-7 on the road. Not too bad. The Warhawks come away with a big win. After Thibs was pretty upset about that Houston loss. Felt like, the team was in really dire straits. Came away with a big win against Central Michigan, right?
The Chippewas. I don't know if the game really happened because there was nobody there to witness it. At one point, watching the stream, I think there were 2 cheerleaders and maybe 3 parents in the stands.
Wow. Watching the game against Bowling Green, Arkansas State fell to Bowling Green by I think 6 points. It was well attended. I don't know if Bowling Green is just like a big basketball school or if they're expected to do well. I think they were only expected to finish 6th in the MAC, but it was a big crowd. I see that Georgia State, they won their game. That was nice. Who else came out big winners in the MAC? The MAC Sunbelt Challenge.
There was a team from Harrisonburg did okay in their game. It was a little bit wild, but they wound up winning.
I think that was the best game or the most exciting game, I should say.
Of course.
I would think so. I mean,
it was high profile.
You had 5-7 points there in the last 5-10 seconds of the game that really sent it to overtime, and then James Madison able to get it done in overtime over a good Kent State team.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of game this thing was designed for. This challenge is to get those good teams playing against each other. Give you a chance for one of those. That might end up being a quad 2 type of win by the end of the season, winning that one on the road, and then the MAC teams are going to get a chance to do the same thing in February when they come visit the Sunbelt teams. So, that's the reason they're playing these things.
I think the biggest head scratcher out of those games, though, was South Alabama. I mean, you go from losing to Crosstown Mobile NAIA program to really kind of handily defeating Buffalo 70-56.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of this South Alabama team anymore.
That's the problem with South Alabama, right, Dusty? They just do this to us. They don't play to win. They play to futz with our emotions.
Yeah, are we talking about football again here? Like, I don't know.
Football,
but,
basketball, baseball, soccer, anything that they play, they just want to screw with our minds. The Jazz.
But hey, what the best thing about losing to Mobile, if you're South Alabama, is it doesn't really count. It's not going to be in the net rankings. It's your overall record, but like when they start figuring up net rankings, Ken Palm, all that stuff, like doesn't really count. So
counts right here in the heart, though, Shane.
Yeah,
I mean,
it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt any of the rest of the Sun Belt.
Yeah, because everybody's going to forget that game happened.
Yeah, and it's not going to hurt anybody's strength of schedule or net ranking or anything.
I'm not going to forget that game.
That's the thing. You play those NAIA or Division III games or whatever, and you lose that. That's better than losing to like the number 310 ranked Division I team,
which would be ULM. Yes, you're absolutely right about that. But you know what? All right, all jealousy aside, which there is, you feel a little jealous when you see JMU get all these accolades. I feel a little jealous about it, but I also feel good about it. And I'll tell you why. It really puts a great spotlight on the Sun Belt. A rising tide raises all ships. I truly do believe that. And to see this kind of exposure for the Sun Belt is actually very incredible, considering what what Thibs and I have seen starting at the very beginning of the Sun Belt, when it was really the joke league in the 90s and the early zeros. Look how far we've come. So congratulations to JMU, and thanks JMU for elevating everybody's game.
On the women's side,
mm-hmm.
Because ULM got a win there, unlike your Red Wolves.
The women win. My Red Wolves won.
Okay.
On the women's,
Dukes didn't win on the women's side.
The Dukes did not win.
They blew a 21-point lead.
Ooh, damn!
So if you want a little Schadenfreude,
right? I feel kind of better. Tips the Warhawks won, right? The women, Lady Warhawks.
Yeah, they beat the Redhawks of Miami of Ohio.
The Red Wolves, they won. They beat Northern Illinois, the Huskies. So Shane, you're saying that the Dukes didn't pull their end of the bargain on the women's side?
They didn't. Toledo is a very good women's basketball team. I think they're going.
Sure.
Yeah.
But Troy lost as well, by the way. 86-71 to Ball State. So a lot of the top teams kind of struggled, but that's what we really wanted, was these mid-tier teams to match up against mid-tier to really help elevate them that way. I do wonder, though, with James Madison losing, was Neil Harrow's hair okay? Was that the difference in the game?
It looked fine, and they rebounded. They won at Xavier. I don't know. My days are getting mixed up. It was recent. Saturday. It was right after the football game. But they rebounded. I think they're going to be okay. Neil's fun, looks good. I saw him yesterday. I think the Dukes will be okay on the women's basketball side of things.
I'm offended that he's talking about another man's bun. On the gridiron, we shift gears back to what we all love talking about, good old college football. Thursday night action last week. We were all dead wrong, saying the Cajuns were going to defend their home turf against Southern Miss. It didn't happen. Southern Miss came in, won it in overtime 34-31. Once again, the Frank Gore show, as he was able to help propel his team to the victory. They're not in bowl contention, but Southern Miss has got to be one of the hottest teams right now in the Sun Belt Conference, right?
Well, begging your pardon, Dusty, but Hal Razor did predict that Southern Miss was going to win that game because Southern Miss was really on a roll. They had the momentum, right? They had come close against Appalachian State, finding their offense after they fired Will Hall as offensive coordinator. Will Hall firing Will Hall. It worked out. Then had that win over whomever. I can't remember. Was it ULM? Yeah, they had the win over ULM. And then playing the Cajuns, I just felt like they had the momentum. The Cajuns don't have momentum. The Cajuns just feel like they're spinning their wheels. It's like they're on that fifth win, and they cannot close escrow. I'm beginning to fear for their chances, Dusty.
I tell you, the team that I'm more fearful of, and we'll talk about shortly, is Texas State. They go river dancing there to get their sixth win, and Viva La Boobcat, where are you now? But yeah, in the Southern Miss Cajuns game, 4 Golden Eagles attempted a pass. None threw for over 100 yards, with Billy Wiles only throwing for 99 yards on 8 of 13. It was the Frank Gore show with 33 carries, 158 yards, 2 touchdowns, and really the defense making key stops against the Cajuns. Saw a lot of things on the Twitter sphere. People were not happy with the officiating and spotting the ball, saying that they should have been in the end zone, but they weren't. Doesn't matter. Everybody gets the bad calls one game or another. It didn't go the Cajuns' way, and it showed. But the Eagles, I mean, they're soaring late. Maybe somebody didn't clip their wings fully, but they're definitely back right now.
You know, something we should note is the moment we said that Frank Gore had a kind of a disappointing season this year, that's when he started upping his game. It's almost like he listens to the show and used that show as toxic fuel to fuel his powerful rage against the rest of the Sun Belt.
I'm sure that's what happened. It's a little off topic, but Dusty talks about some complaints about spotting the ball. I'm just going to have you guys noticed that seems to have been an issue like all season, that they sort of like are hasty with their spotting. They never measure anything.
Oh,
and it's just kind of like, you know, I mean, they're keeping the game moving along, but I just feel like the spotting and the like deciding what's a first down has been a little shaky all season.
Shane, these are professionals. They are experts. They know exactly how the rules work. They know exactly where the ball is in reference to the first down marker and the ball spot. They know where the line of scrimmage is. They know where the back of the end zone, the front of the end zone, sideline to sideline. I can't believe that you would question the integrity of Fun Belt officiating.
It's not integrity. I just feel like, you know, with the emphasis on moving the game along, that's one thing where they maybe have sacrificed a little bit. My other question, though, is, you know, if you watch tennis on TV, they got the little chips in the ball that can tell you if it's out by a millimeter.
I know. Why don't we have that?
Like, why don't we have that technology in the most popular sport, like in the country? At least at the high levels.
All right. I'll weigh in a little bit on that, Jay. The whole thing you said about spotting the ball and about the technology, you know, there's a big push in Major League Baseball, for instance, to have digital umpires instead of human umpires. And I always thought that it was the human element, the foibles of being a human, was just kind of part of the game. Like when people kind of complain about the refs in football games and kind of contribute that to their loss, I always think that's a loser's sort of argument. I mean, there's like, I don't know, 100 plays that happen in football, and you're going to blame that one play that the umpire was off on a spot or didn't catch the personal foul or whatever, and you're going to say, well, that was the reason why we lost. I never really understood that. I always liked that there was a human element that could sort of like spin the game in some way. What do you guys think about that? Would you prefer perfection, or would you prefer that humans maintain control no matter how imperfect?
Well, I think in football, we're never going to get rid of the debates about holding, pass interference, like all that stuff. But I feel like you could use the technology to just put the ball where it actually was.
Yeah, we got GPS. What about you, Dusty? Yeah. You've been in the upper echelons of baseball. You know how that works. What do you think?
I think in the collegiate level, I think the human element is just fine. But I think when you're getting into the professional ranks, and maybe this is, again, P5, G5 discussion, when you have millions of dollars on the line of a game, that you want it to be as fair and neutral as possible. And so you're going to want to have every technological advantage that you can, just like Michigan had in their contest.
I love how Michigan has become like, they're acting like they're the most persecuted team in America. We must triumph. We'll find some way. We're America's team now.
I love how the arbitrator that was going to do the temporary restraining order, they had to edit his bio to take out that he played football at Michigan.
I know. I feel like the cards are a little stacked here. Oh, Michigan.
The midday game in good old Fun Row. John Summerall alluded to it even in the post-game comments after his 45-14 point victory over the Warhawks. He's like, I don't know what it is about Monroe. Maybe it's the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe it's just some kind of weird voodoo on the bayou, but they were able to overcome it. Ironically, as much as Troy just really kind of dominated the game, the Warhawks did some things that kind of flew in under the radar. I saw on the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, however you want to say it, Jeremy.
I don't even know.
There was a lot of praise for ULM's offensive line that, the good defensive front that Troy has, that they were really able to keep them at bay. With that said, Solomon had 4 sacks to set a school record. But you're not going to really be able to consistently contain a talent like that on every single snap. Additionally, ULM's 14 points, that's the only 2 touchdowns that Troy's given up this year to Sunbelt Conference opponents.
Yeah, 2 in one game, yeah.
So take that, JMU.
Yeah.
A lot of people were pointing that out on the X/Twitter about how well the Warhawks played that game. It's a loser's mentality to extract so much good out of a loss. But really, there's just a lot of good that's going on at ULM. It just has to be put together. It's not like it's hopeless at ULM. It just seems like they're a recruiting class away from being dangerous in the Sun Belt. Would you agree with that, Dusty?
Some years. Other years, I don't know. The chief is pissed and eating players or who knows what. But it's frustrating that it can't all come together. This year, you might have a great offense, but no defense. Next year, it's a great defense with no offense. The year after that, everyone's hurt, so you don't know what kind of team you have. The year after that, special teams snakes bite you. And then it just kind of rinse, repeat on a cycle. It never kind of goes according to plan.
Yeah. And what's bad when you don't have huge depth either is that your margins for error are so thin, Dusty. You can't be like lose a prime defensive lineman in spring game and just come up with another guy to take his place. That's like your season right there. So yeah, I understand that. There's just it's frustrating when you feel like you got all the pieces and you just don't make it at that time, and then that year passes and you're in another 4-year rebuild.
I'm just excited that we have $76 million to fire our head coach.
It's so obscene. It's gross.
It's insane.
Man. Yeah, well, and somebody was pointing out about coaching salaries, and I think it was 7 or 8 years ago when Notre Dame fired who that guy Charlie Weiss. It was like an $18 million buyout. Everybody's like, "Oh God, that's awful." Now that's only the third highest buyout.
Only.
Gus Malzahn's was like $22 million at Auburn, and now triple the amount of Gus Malzahn's. That's just a crazy amount of money that Texas A&M has to spend.
And it's not like they wooed Nick Saban away. I mean, Jimbo Fisher, he was good. I mean, won at Florida State, yeah. But did they have to pay that to get him? I don't know.
Did they have to give him the extension?
Yeah.
That they gave him.
That's what's insane. You're creating your own market to bid against there. It's nuts.
Yeah, when they set up that extension and talked about the buyout, I was like, good God, is it really worth retaining this guy? I mean, you're at Texas A&M. You can find a suitable replacement if Jimbo decides to walk. I don't know. It's just I feel like some of these guys have so much money, they just don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we have programs out there that's, still looking for an indoor practice facility, still, looking for refurbishments, still scared that they're not going to be able to keep their players in NIL. And then you got a program that can just pay $72 million to a departing coach without blinking an eye. It's obscene.
Yeah.
Jeremy, why is everything you talk about ULM based? That's all I want to know.
Well, they're my benchmark for futility. So
thank you. I'm glad we live rent free in that house.
Oh man. Okay.
The next game,
Mhm.
the guy that very well could be the next A&M head coach, Jamie
Oh.
Chadwell of the Liberty Flames.
Wow.
He got a little bit of Sunbelt in his life.
Of all the
38.
people, that wasn't the one I expected you to
No,
say.
I wasn't expecting, but then I thought, okay, that could be, yeah, that kind of works. I was
38
Summerall.
to 10 over Old Dominion. It wasn't even really close. Chadwell was a little pissed in the post game that how dare the media not respect Conference USA and Liberty. And I turned it off after he said that. I was like, I'm done, dude.
Well, we were one of those guys. So.
Well, they still are.
Yeah. As right as I was about Southern Miss, I was completely wrong about Old Dominion being too weird to lose that game. And they never looked like they were in that game at all.
No, they didn't show up.
Yeah, I expected a lot more from ODU. Like, I expected it to be close. I thought they had a chance to win, and just ugly first half. Like, I was shocked. And, Chadwell can brag as much as he wants about beating, one of the teams at the bottom of the East. But
yeah,
it was a Sun Belt team.
Yeah, I saw some CUSA chatter kind of like doing where they kind of wiping their hands and go, well, I guess that solves the mystery as to whether CUSA is better than the Sun Belt. Like, whoa, congratulations. Your number one team beat ODU.
Yeah.
Well done.
You get into a lot of comparative scores, too. I don't know if you've noticed that the JMU and Liberty fans don't tend to like each other too much.
There seems to be some tension. But, you know, when you become as arrogant as JMU, that's going to happen.
Yeah, but you get a lot of the score. I mean, yeah, there's enough arrogance to go around between the two of them. But this you get to like, well, we beat ODU worse than you beat ODU.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not on the side of JMU, though.
Yeah, those are the arguments I'd like the Red Wolves to one day be part of again. So I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully one day.
The sleepwalking match, as Shane so eloquently put it in our DM thread that we have blowing up on Saturdays, but still able to pull it out 44-6 over the UConn Huskies. Shane, were you really that scared at the game, or were you just kind of tongue-in-cheeking that it was not a complete blowout in the first 30 seconds of the game?
Yeah, I mean, sleepwalking is what I said. I don't think I was ever particularly worried. I mean, UConn never looked that capable of scoring a touchdown in that game. And JMU they sort of become a little bit of a pattern here in the last few weeks, is that the offense takes a few series where it's the opposite of the beginning of the season, but they take a few series where they're just kind of feeling things out. And then by the middle of the second quarter, they start moving the ball and putting some points on the board. So, yeah, didn't think JMU was in too much danger of losing that one, but it wasn't immediate boat race like I think a lot of people were expecting.
No, sometimes you play down to your competition, right? Hard to get up for UConn after playing so many high-profile games. But
yeah, it did, like, it was classic trap game. You know, App State's coming to town next week. UConn's got a terrible record. It's not a conference game. You kind of see why maybe it was, like I said, sleepwalking through maybe the first 15 minutes.
And I'm sure quite the opposite. I'm sure the Huskies were up for the game, right? They come in, they've only got that win against Rice, and then they're like, okay, here's a top 25 team. We can salvage our season with a little bit of pride if we stick it to the Dukes, but didn't really have enough horses for that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was a team that, like, they obviously knew they could play spoiler, and they're sending a ton of guys early in the game. They're breaking out some trick plays and stuff, and kind of once that all gets figured out, there's not that much left for UConn to do.
Yeah, the trick plays. They pulled out a trick play, right? Didn't they?
They had a couple, yeah.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's how you beat JMU, Thibs. It's you got to pull out the bag of trick plays.
But they didn't quite get the first down on the fake punt they tried. So
that's bad. Yeah.
Another lesson we learned on Saturday: you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Oh, okay.
That from App State head coach Sean Clark when his team was stopped from praying at midfield in the ATL, and his team rallied to down the Panthers 42-14. Is Georgia State just dead now? Well, they have 2 road games left, going to LSU this week and then Old Dominion. Are they going to get win number 7, or are they done?
I'm happy to answer that. I think they're done. And, I think Shane and I kind of had a little back and forth about talking about what's kind of happened to Darren Granger and the team. I agreed with Shane. They just seem to be out of gas, Thibs. Darren Granger started off hot. He was like he and TJ Finley, who's also had some struggles, both were 2 quarterbacks that were like the Heisman candidates of the Sun Belt. And now both of them just seem to be a little bit winded. And the whole team at Georgia State seems that way too. That defense just seems to be getting worse and worse. The team attitude seems to be getting worse and worse. It's like they had that stretch where they were riding high and they were coming up to approaching that game with James Madison for control over the East, and everything just kind of died for them. It's like they lost their will to football.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like we were talking about, Darren Granger, Marcus Carroll, they've got 2 really good players there. And what else do they have? They've ridden those guys the entire season, and I think they've taken a little bit of a beating. I think I think teams have figured out too that that's who you game plan against is those 2 guys, and if you slow them down a little bit, you're in pretty good shape. And I was kind of joking when I said this to you, Jeremy, like off air messaging or whatever, but other teams also get to play some home games every once in a while, and like Georgia State never plays in front of their own fans.
Oh no! Oh, that's brutal, Shane. Oh, hey, that's not me and Thibs, Fun Belt audience. That's Shane besmirching yet another fan base
from the perch of JMU.
Well, I'm talking even more about the App State game. Like, there was nobody there. That was rough.
Yeah, what are the problems there? I was kind of talking a little offline to who's their guy? It's not Ben Moore. The guy that works with Ben
Brady.
Moore.
Brady,
I'm talking a little bit with Brady about that. Here's the thing about Georgia State. It's a urban school. It's one of those schools that a lot of people we are trying. They live at home, but they go to that campus. So there's it's tough building a legacy there, and so it's tough building a fan base. And they're doing their best to try to make it more of a destination type of university, more dormitories, more fraternity action, or Greek action, more of that kind of stuff. But that takes time. They're trying to do this in within a decade, and that's impossible to do. You just gotta, wait it out. Do your best. Don't ignore the people talking about, how empty the stadium looks. Just keep on plugging away, and eventually it will happen.
Yeah. When I was there a couple weeks ago, the one thing I couldn't help but think about a little bit, coming up from the, DMV area, I started thinking about Georgetown basketball. And if you said like in the late 70s, like Georgetown basketball would ever be as big as Maryland or anything, they just didn't have the fan base in DC. And I can see some similarities between Georgia State and Georgetown in that regard. Different kinds of schools, but, and I don't know, maybe I'm about to like get myself canceled even bringing up race, but like Georgetown hired somebody who made them the Black DC's team.
Yeah.
And I think like Georgia State could do something like that. I mean, if they ever, are looking for another coach, not to say they should move on from Sean Elliott or anything like that, but like, you got to find your niche in a city like that. And it's possible to do, but it'll be tough. But I think there's an avenue to like, get some people on your side down there.
I think they're taking some of the right steps in that regard, Shane, and that they're kind of positioning themselves as Atlanta's team. They're the city's team. Yeah. They try to market themselves at that. I think that's smart. It's just going to take some time, especially when you got such big name brands around you. Even like Georgia Tech, which is an egghead school, but I mean they still have a big football fan base in that town. Imagine being in a city and having somebody to have to compete with in that same city, a fan base like that. And then, of course, have Georgia and Georgia Southern and all these others. It's not easy to be Georgia State and have a fan base.
Yeah.
Well, and remember, this program's not that old. I mean, 2008. I mean, it's not even really legal to drink yet.
Yeah, and then I mean, they've got some other things behind the scenes they got to do better at too. I mean, they have one. I think they're in the process of hiring him. They have one sports information director for their entire athletic department. They've got you're not getting your message out that way, and there's we joke about Turner Field and Center Park Stadium and being a baseball stadium and stuff, but there's stuff they could do. They've got to clean it up, fix it up a little bit.
Yeah.
And, they got to find some money. They've got to make some investments, and somewhere along the way, kind of find their niche of what they're going to be to Atlanta.
And then something that Dusty said that makes perfect sense too was because they've only started playing football. What was it, 2008, 2009, or whatever?
2008.
That's barely a decade. Think about where you were once you graduated. Where were you in life in terms of financial stability, in terms of your relationships, in terms of your career? You weren't really prepared to be a legacy fan of your college team. You might go to the games sometimes, but you don't. There wasn't this. You weren't. This is what they're relying on to be their legacy donors. It's a bunch of guys that are still working on their careers after graduating from Georgia State. It's going to take at least another generation before they finally have that affluent fan base that can be counted on to fill the coffers of the NIL, to become boosters, to have the ears of the administration. That's going to take some time before you see that kind of pride.
Yeah, and you don't have a single adult fan who could say, I grew up going to Georgia State with my dad.
Lifelong Panthers fan. Yeah. Oh yeah, my mom, my dad, me. Yeah, you don't have that. No. Hell, even ULM and Arkansas State has that.
Yeah, that was my first ever game.
Yep.
Northeast, Northwest.
I love
another classic.
Yeah,
another classic game. Southwest Texas State. I'm going old school with it. Traveled to the East Coast to play the Sea Chickens of Coastal Carolina. Still Grayson McCallis. Still doesn't matter.
Nah.
Chants get the win, 31-23. Different team, same question. TJ Finley, the Boob Cats, they go swimming, and now they just look like they are hand up looking for a life raft to try to get to win number 7. I told y'all, just because they made it to 6 doesn't mean that they are guaranteed a slot in the bowl. They got to get to 7 to improve their chances. Otherwise, we could be looking at another 6-6 sitting at home in San Marcos.
Yeah, so that's why this game with Arkansas State they have coming up is so important. Listen, here's a couple things that you can take away from that game. One, once again, the Sun Belt West is not doing very well against the Sun Belt East. And two, when we talked about that game last week, guys, we were like, man, we're not sure who's going to win this. It's going to be a close one. We all thought that Coastal was somehow going to pull out the win. But, man, it wasn't really even close, guys. I mean, it was just kind of a pounding from Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, guys, is back. I believe they're on top of the standings. No offense to you, Shane, until all these things get figured out. Yeah. But right now, Coastal's the top dog, and I don't think we saw that coming, guys.
No, not without Grayson McCall, too. I mean, they've done well. And to go back to Texas State a little bit, I will say this. I have been paying attention to how many bowl-eligible teams there might end up being, and I think at 6-6 they're going to be pretty safe. There's about 98% chance that that every 6-6 team gets into a bowl.
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. And so, with that said, isn't this all gravy for the Bobcats right now? I mean, they bring in GJ, they start winning. They're going to go to a bowl game. Anything else this year, I think they just got to feel like, that's just a cherry on top, right?
I think human nature says once you start getting that taste of victory, you get spoiled, right? And here, I'm sure Bobcats fans are seeing some of these losses and go, "Oh my God, it's time." The old Bobcats are rearing their heads. Oh, we should be so much better than this. Why isn't things happening? I think and I did say this. I did think this was not the Bobcats' year. Like it's almost like Southern Miss getting that magic year last year, even though maybe they needed some time to grow. I feel like the Bobcats are kind of in that position where they're having some magic time right now. And they're getting contributions from some amazing players right now, more than even the Southern Miss did. But I don't think this year is the Bobcats' year. I think it might be next year, but this year's not the year.
Yeah, I feel like Gary Joe's probably got another big transfer class next year. They've got all those high school kids they signed. They took back Texas. Like that's what I mean. Like you get to a bowl game this year, year one. Just enjoy that. Just enjoy that if you're a Texas State fan.
Yeah, and not only that, well, the only thing GJ doesn't get to have is unfettered access to internet word, right?
Yeah. No, he definitely still does.
Oh, do you think he does? All right, all right. Yeah, but I mean, he doesn't have keys to the locker room anymore, so he can't just come in. Yeah, he just grab some guys.
He can't pass the love notes in the locker anymore. There,
I can't do that. But yeah, Thibs, you got your fingers on the pulse of the Bobcats. Are they struggling, or are they just kind of hit a temporary speed bump here?
I don't think they know how to handle the success, and I know that sounds a little weird.
Yeah,
they've never been in this position before to know what's next. It's always been, all right, guys, we got to squeak in, and in week 12 we can get to 6 wins and hopefully be bowl eligible. Well, they've already hit the 6. And they don't know how to take that next step going forward. They have 2 games left, and I think that they do have a win left in the season. You just got to hope that it's, not coming down to that South Alabama game when they come into town to close out the season, because
that's a tough game to win.
We don't know what South Alabama team is going to show up. And so really this week's game at Arkansas State, where they kill quarterbacks apparently, is really going to be the key game for them.
TJ Finley might want to take out a policy because there's some haunted stuff going on at Centennial Bank Stadium directed at opposing quarterbacks. But yes, we'll talk about that next episode.
Of course, always next episode, always. Speaking of Jonesboro and the haunting,
okay,
they traveled to the Jaguars.
Yes.
Got to hang out with Governor Kane Womack.
No, okay,
and he sent them on their way. 21 14-point losers.
Yeah.
Carter Bradley back, threw for 145. Not maybe the best numbers he had, but enough to get the Jags back to even at 5-5. 2 games remaining. Are the Jags just kind of surging late and able to get that six win so that they can join the Bobcats in a bowl game, or do you feel that that's it? 5 wins is where we are.
Remember we talked about we couldn't put a finger on why the Jags don't have more wins. I mean, they've got the running back, they've got the wide receiver, they've got a pretty good quarterback, they've got the defense, they got a pretty good offense. Why do they only have 4 wins at that time? Now they have 5. And watching this game, it was a 21-14 contest. Arkansas State's defense forced more 3-and-outs on them than they did on Arkansas State. Carter Bradley, couldn't find his guys unless it was Lacey. LaDamian Webb, he broke out a big giant run to score the first touch. Well, he didn't score the first touchdown on that, but the next run he did because it was like a 60 or 70-yard run. I mean, they've got the playmakers. You just can't really understand why they're not blowing out opponents. It's really strange. So watching that game, it all came down to they needed a fake punt on 4th and fairly long to move the chains, and it ended up resulting in a touchdown. That, to me, that's what turned the tide. It kind of sapped all the energy out of everybody on Arkansas State. And that's really what it was. There wasn't like anything dominating about South Alabama, except that defense is legit. That defense is fast, guys, to just watch them fly around and get people off in the backfield. But it is weird that they're not beating opponents by more.
Yeah, I still don't know what to say about South Alabama or what to expect from them next week. They seem like they have 2 winnable games to close it out. We're talking about them getting to a bowl. Like, seems like they should go 1-1 at least in those games, but hard to know what to expect from those guys.
Yeah, and it's just kind of puzzling. Yeah. Like the whole time, it felt like, South Alabama was on the cusp of busting out the game. It would just never happen. And Arkansas State would find ways to hold on. And really, did you guys see how that game ended?
No.
So, all right. So there's about 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. And Arkansas State forces a 3-and-out. And the South Alabama has to punt the ball. Now, Arkansas State has no more timeouts. But they have this moment where they could tie the game, if they can get down the field. So they go. South Alabama goes to punt the ball, and Arkansas State has this freshman guy on the special teams runs into the kicker. So it resulted in a first down, and that's how the game ended. They just ran out the clock. I was like, God, the stupidest way to lose a football game, running into the punter. But that's kind of life that's kind of how it is.
The emotional game every year in Huntington, West Virginia, where they play for the 75. The Herd able to get it done 38-33 over Georgia Southern. Several stories in this game that I really liked. Rashid Ali, 165, 3 touchdowns. He's got to be going on to the next level. Saw that he accepted an invitation to play in the East-West All-Star game.
Okay.
And then we had the debut of Cole Pennington, son of legendary Herd quarterback Chad Pennington.
Yeah.
However, his time for Marshall started off no other than first career pass picked.
I didn't get to see any of this game, but is it unfortunate for Georgia Southern that they would get tabbed to play this game? I mean, this is the big high emotion game for Marshall.
No doubt. You go into that game you got to be better in every aspect of the game, and you got to be emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually strong to even have a chance on that weekend to go to Huntington and get that win.
So suddenly they've got 5 wins. Shane, are they going to get the magic 6th win?
They might. I mean, they still have South Alabama on the schedule always, so we don't know what to expect from them. Yeah, I think they can get to there, and I think that would be sort of an accomplishment with everything they've gone through this year. I mean, talk about, not just the storylines, the 75, the next Pennington. And he came back a game before, but JJ Roberts was out there making tackles all over the place after being hospitalized a couple of weeks ago. Like, it was just like kind of like that perfect storybook Marshall game. Like, they wrote a movie. If they hadn't already written a movie about Marshall, like, that could have been it. Like, it was it's because it's everything you expect out of Huntington.
Yeah, and if you're a bowl director, don't you kind of want the Herd, right? Because the fans travel. It's a good storyline. So it's not like it's like one of those teams that doesn't have much of a fan base. You're like, oh, okay, they're going to sneak in. I think that would be a good story for the Sun Belt for that to happen. Now, I'm sure South Alabama and later Texas State wouldn't want to see that happen, but we'll see. Yeah, it would be an interesting storyline. Thibs, do you find this interesting at all that you get a team that wins 4 straight, loses 5 straight, and would somehow end up in a bowl game?
It would be the most heard of thing ever. and what a great accomplishment, though, for Charlie Huff. Because, I mean, I don't feel like he's on the hot seat. I don't feel like maybe he's even done enough to try to move on from Marshall. But I feel like it's enough to really keep his name relevant in the football ranks of being that guy that can move on or that is up for the next job opportunity.
Do you think, Thibs, that him seeing that these coaching vacancies kind of popping up, that maybe he kind of turned up the gas a little bit?
No way.
Okay. All right. That'd be cool.
It's been a weird year for him, though, where we went from early on, he was the guy they were tossing out for Michigan State to, him taking a lot of heat from Marshall fans for a few weeks. And, now they can close it out, with a few wins here. Like, I think you'd have to consider that a pretty successful season, given the amount of injuries and everything else that they've gone through.
And that's a wrap on the week of Sunbelt Conference action. And as always, we close it out with plugs, promos, and parting shots. Jeremy, give us your forever, never-ending parting shot.
Are my parting shots that long? Do they ramble?
No, we just have to edit it so that we stay under 6 hours.
Well, that's fine. I'll try to keep this brief. It will be a parting shot, though. So, I don't know about, how it is on the East Coast. I feel like Dusty recognizes this, being a citizen of the Deep South. It's deer and duck hunting season, guys. I don't know if you're aware of that. I don't hunt personally. I'm not from a hunting family, but many in Arkansas do. And that actually really hurts attendance at football games all over. Not just, places like ULM and Arkansas State, but bigger schools too. And
like Georgia State.
That's definitely. They've been hunting at Georgia State for 10 years, but the guy got them out of the deer woods, I guess. But my point is that at Arkansas State, you got this big game against Texas State, and this is one of the first meaningful games in November Arkansas State has had in maybe 5 years, at least 2019. So, which is I guess 4 years. So, get out of the deer woods, get out of the duck blind for a couple hours. Spend some time at Centennial Bank Park. You'll see a big rivalry game, a game that matters between two programs. Texas State making sure that they get that bowl bid. Arkansas State trying to become bowl eligible, which was something that Arkansas State fans said that's the measuring stick of a successful season. You need to be there to push them over the edge. So Arkansas State fans, I will see you at Centennial Bank Stadium. I'll be providing coverage all week long on howrazor.com.
I'll give my parting shot next there, Shane, so that you can close us out with your high and mighty James Madison opinionated views.
Yes, we've got to give him all the space he needs.
My chest is going to be black and blue after this from beating it that I am an All-American voter. Bow before me.
Nice.
Guys, I'll say that it's really weird being behind the scenes and seeing kind of how it all shakes out and comes together.
Oh, okay.
The unsung heroes of this really are the sports information directors, though, and how they get that information out to us on the voting committee and to the FWA as a whole. So kudos to y'all for getting the information out there. If your guys are not getting the love, guess what? You got to drop some emails, got to drop some postcards in the mail, pick up the phone, text, smoke signal, call, whatever. But you got to do some due diligence there to get your guys some love in the postseason. It definitely makes it a lot easier, especially for the G5 when you have way more information that you can throw at people on the committee. And that's my parting shot.
That's an excellent parting shot.
It is. I totally agree with you, even though I wasn't on the choosing committee. No, I'm not that special, but my parting shot will just be a little bit of an apology to Jeremy and the good folks of Northeast Arkansas.
Wow.
I read your post on Hellraiser about, kind of what Red Wolves football can mean to Northeast Arkansas, like what that region is like.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we need to apologize for making the joke that there's only vets and not hospitals in Jonesboro. You moved me with that piece, Jeremy.
Well, good. We've got steel mills in Northeast Arkansas and all sorts of corn and soybeans and stuff. But yes, my point was that, you have to celebrate the victories of Northeast Arkansas. And one way to do that is when the football team has a nice win, you report on it. So thank you, Shane, for pointing that out. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I know you guys aren't going to get the Jonas Brothers to visit like some Sunbelt teams. So
you hear what's happening, Jesse? What are we going to do with the big head over here?
Yeah, because that's really what I'm looking forward to this Saturday.
Yeah, keep your wife away from the Jonas Brothers.
At your job, do you ever have to deal with a nose roller? How about a snub pulley? Well, if you're installing a new conveyor belt system, dealing with the different components can sound like you're speaking a foreign language. Luckily, you've got a team ready to help. Grainger's technical product specialists are fluent in maintenance, repair, and operations. So whenever you want to talk shop, just reach out. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.